Now we've all swatted flies, beaten folk we despise, done some things we've found morbid and grim. But when it comes down to killing, to blood, shed and spilling, the best of the lots, Grizzly Jim. Small, fat or tall, Jim's killed them all. Yep, he's butchered his way through his life. With his old 8-shot Uzi, he calls One-Eyed Susie, and Jack his razor-sharp knife. From 9-week-old Bambis to sweet old namby-pambis to babes born just that morn. From the Alps and the Andes to the swamps of the Ganges, he's hunted them dusk, day and dawn. Now Jim's got some tales that would blunt and sharp nails that would whiten the black eyes of peas. But the one with most fame, hell, one that gave Jim his name, is the one I tell now, if you please. He was up north with Joe, time, place, I don't know, near a little town they call Hungry Horse. They were out shooting buck and some bear with some luck, though the latter weren't legal, of course. Well, it had been a slow day, slow for Jim anyway. 2 geese and a mangy old stag. And with Joe feeling beat from the corns on his feet, they set back for camp with their bag. Dragging the deer, the birds, all their gear, their return proved painfully slow. Then down came a mist, thick as old Grizzly's wrist, dealing progress another sharp blow. Under limited light, with diminishing sight, conditions were taking their course. And still miles from their base, Jim, he picked up the pace, reluctant to admit he was lost. Just then, crossing the stream, sweet Lord, what a scream, like a skunk with its foot in a snare. Joe'd slipped on a stone, shearing clean to the bone, his ankle joint stripped back and bare. With light fading fast and his friend all downcast, Jim set to make camp where they stood and started to lash a crude splint round the gash whilst Joe hollered loud as he could. Darkness ensued, fervor dampening the mood, and night noises haunted their pitch. A screech of an owl, distant wolves on the howl, sounds of death that were making Joe twitch. Jim lit up a fire, a mighty great pyre, and with one of the geese made a spit, whilst Joe, under strain, hardly lucid from pain, was shaking and starting to fit. When out of the gloom, a great shadow did loom, stood a bear quite gigantic in size, drawn in by the goose and the smell it let loose, and intrigued by Joe's whimpering cries. Well, given Joe couldn't run, Jim, he passed him the gun and told him to do the right thing. But in Joe's fractious health, turned the gun on himself and shot a hole in the crease of his chin. Well, with his comrade laid cold, possibly gone, all be told, and Susie out yon Grizzly's grasp, he stretched for his pack, slowly drew out old Jack, and stroked the cold steel in his clasp. Then as fast as a beat, Jim, he leapt to his feet and in a miner's flash ran straight at his foe. But the bear, 20 high, stared him square in the eye and swiped him a thunderous blow. Down Grizzly fell, head rung like a bell, ribs popping like corn one by one. Still old Jack in his left, but dazed and bereft, and the strength in his arm almost gone. With the fire still alight and clear losing this fight, Jim rolled within a yard of her hearth. Hoped the smell of goose meat and the searing great heat might distract Bear's carnivorous parf. But the bear was head set on just who he should get, enraged by these men on his hill. And with a chorus of roars, he sat down on all fours, preparing to finish his kill. Jim, with many a broke bone, lay quite still as a stone, eyes closed as if already dead. Why, the bear got so near, started sniffing Jim's ear and pawing the hair on his head. Now, of all ways to go, eating live's a clear no, 'bout the worst way a grown man can end. And Jim really weren't minded to finish up getting grinded in the jaws of his hairy-backed friend. So with odds firmly stacked, in one last desperate act, Jim reached in the fire with his arm, and ignoring the pain from the white burning flame, grabbed the searing hot coal in his palm. The heat was intense, and the burn so immense it was close to knocking Jim out. And with the last of his might, pressed the coal glowing bright against the mighty great bear's ugly snout. Foul smells of singed hair and burnt flesh filled the air, whilst the bear recoiled back in great pain. Like a yelping old dog, it set fast through the fog, snout smoking and brain driven insane. Jim just lay there a while, not a smirk or a smile, eyes pressed, slowly gathering his breath. Why, in all of his days, he'd come near many ways, but never that close to his death. Something stirred to Jim's right. Well, be darned, what a sight! It was Joe who'd suddenly come to, blood-drenched and beat in, with a hole in his chin and the splint round his ankle and shoe. At the onset of dawn, battle-weary and worn, they inched their way back to the road. Joe lurched on a crutch, hardly saying that much, whilst Jim limbered beside as Joe's hold. Some 2 seasons on, and his scars almost gone, Jim returned to that seminal place. Stories abounded of sightings unfounded of a bear with a disfigured face. For almost a week, he scouted each creek, trekked every hillside and pass, but nothing he found, not a print in the ground, nor a scratch or a hair in the grass. Tired to the bone, Grizzly headed back home, hung up Susie and razor-sharp Jack. And through to this day, so says Jim anyway, the hunting, he's never been back.